So this problem is a little bit different because we're given grams instead of moles. The first thing you have to do is balance your equation. When I balance it, I get 1, 2, 1, 1 for my coefficients. The next step is going to be to turn each of the grams into moles. So if I start with 10 grams of iron oxide, there are 71.8 grams in 1 mole of iron 2 oxide, which works out to be 0.139 moles of iron oxide. I'm going to go ahead and turn the moles of iron 2 oxide and find out how many moles of sodium hydroxide I would need to run that reaction. There is 1 mole of iron 2 oxide for every 2 moles of sodium hydroxide. If I started with 10 grams of iron 2 oxide, I would need 0.279 moles of sodium hydroxide to completely react with that. I'm going to go ahead and take 10 grams of sodium hydroxide, convert that into moles. There are 40 grams of sodium hydroxide in 1 mole. That's equal to 0.25 moles of sodium hydroxide. I'm going to go ahead and take the moles of sodium hydroxide and find out how many moles of iron 2 oxide I would need to completely react. There are 2 moles of sodium hydroxide for every 1 mole of iron 2 oxide. If I had 10 grams of sodium hydroxide, I would need 0.125 moles of iron oxide. So now I want to go ahead and look at how much of my reactants I would need. I need 0.125 moles of iron oxide. I have 0.139 moles available, so I'm good there. I would need 0.279 moles of sodium hydroxide, and I only have 0.25 moles available. So sodium hydroxide becomes my limiting reactant. The question then says, how many grams of iron 2 hydroxide was produced in the reaction? Let's go ahead and turn moles of sodium hydroxide into grams of iron 2 hydroxide. So I know I have 0.25 moles of sodium hydroxide. Let's use our mole ratio to convert that into iron 2 hydroxide. There are 2 moles of sodium hydroxide for every 1 mole of iron 2 hydroxide. And then there are 89.9 grams of iron hydroxide in 1 mole. When I multiply across the top and divide by the bottom, I find that 10 grams of sodium hydroxide will produce 11.23 grams of iron 2 hydroxide.